In this module, I will introduce you to a few well-recognized applications that facilitate the production of safe, high-quality products when implemented appropriately by rice milling companies. These applications are not fortification specific. Rather, they encompass many aspects of mill operations. To start with, let's look at management systems. Why should each rice mill develop and execute a management system? Here are some reasons to consider. To achieve product consistency, to earn customer approval, to fulfill export requirements, to increase company competition, to avoid costly mistakes and investigations. One of the most important features of a management system is documentation. Keeping records of the procedures and activities that are carried out make it possible to pinpoint issues and make changes quickly. Answer to customers. Review employee practices. Minimize risk of material or product stockout. Easily locate bad product. And track trends of improvement. Thorough records also make audits by government regulators easy for all involved. The International Organization for Standardization, or ISO, is familiar to many food manufacturers. As the name suggests, ISO develops voluntary, internationally recognized standards. The standards help to make businesses worldwide comparable in terms of business practices and product quality, safety, and reliability. This, in turn, facilitates international trade. Two ISO standards that are applicable to rice mills include ISO 9001 version 2015, which is part of the ISO 9000 series, ISO 22000 version 2005, which is part of the ISO 22000 series. Inherent in both is the need to have a management system in place. ISO 9001 version 2015 describes the foundational components and language of quality management systems. Companies from all industries can apply for the voluntary ISO 9001 certification to improve business practices and increase company visibility. ISO 9001 certification requirements are the same for every company, regardless of size, location, or industry. The certification process encompasses all aspects of a company, including facilities, people, training, services, and equipment. Senior management must commit to oversee the activities of the management system for the long term. In other words, ISO 9001 does not only pertain to the quality control department of a company. As part of the certification process, an auditor will also visit the facility. A primary aim of ISO 9001 version 2015 is to prevent non-conforming products from entering the market. ISO 22000 version 2005 is compatible with ISO 9001 version 2015. It specifies requirements for a food safety management system and is designed to minimize the risk of hazards in food products. This standard is applicable to all entities involved in the food supply chain and aims, in part, to foster communication between those entities. Importantly, ISO 22000 version 2005 incorporates HACCP principles, which I'll introduce next. Like ISO 9001 version 2015, companies can apply to be certified in this voluntary standard. Rice milling companies can also become certified in Hazard Analysis and Critical Control Point, or HACCP. It is used to identify points within the manufacturing system that could jeopardize the safety of the final product. Thinking about rice milling, HACCP encompasses everything from receiving paddy rice, to processing, to packaging, and finally to shipping the fortified rice for sale or alternative distribution. The main risk categories assessed within HACCP include biological, chemical, and physical hazards. HACCP plans are often sector-specific, meaning that a HACCP plan for rice mills will likely be quite different from a HACCP plan used at bakeries. HACCP principles include the following: Conduct hazard analysis and identify critical control points, also called CCPs. Establish limits for the CCPs. Dictate monitoring requirements for the CCPs. Establish corrective actions for when something goes wrong with a CCP. Institute procedures for verifying that a corrective action has been completed. And establish record-keeping procedures. Now, let's go through a 6-step example related to rice fortification. In the fortification process, a critical control point is the feed rate of fortified kernels. It is important that the proper proportion of fortified kernels to unfortified rice is met to realize the desired public health impact of the program and to maintain food safety. The limits for the CCP are the feed rate plus or minus 10%. The monitoring requirement for this CCP is the check-weigh procedure. This activity measures the amount of fortified kernels released from the feeder over a specified period of time. It should be conducted approximately every 4 hours. If the result of the check-weigh procedure indicates that the feed rate is outside of the plus or minus 10% range, then the feeder needs to be adjusted. To verify that the corrective action is complete, the check-weigh procedure is carried out again. For record-keeping purposes, the result of every check-weigh procedure must be documented. When a rice mill initiates rice fortification, it is necessary to integrate the relevant quality assurance and quality control protocols into the documentation for the mill's existing management system. Doing so emphasizes to employees that mill management is committed to the fortification initiative for the long term. It also increases the likelihood that the fortification-related quality assurance and quality control activities will be consistently and appropriately carried out. Now, let's move on to some components of management systems. Good manufacturing practices, or GMPs, are focused on the food industry. They are guidelines. However, governments may stipulate that food manufacturers adopt GMPs as minimum requirements for operation. GMPs cover a number of topics, including input materials, facilities, equipment, sanitation, and personal hygiene for employees, to name a few. They are characterized as being broad rather than specific, which gives food manufacturers some autonomy in designing adequate controls. A primary emphasis is on written procedures and documentation of actions. GMPs form the foundation of the HACCP system and can inform the development of standard operating procedures, which we'll talk about next. Standard operating procedures, or SOPs, are detailed written instructions aimed at helping operators achieve uniformity in the performance of a repetitive activity. SOPs answer the questions who, why, what frequency, how to fix. As part of the rice fortification program, SOPs should be developed for the iron spot test. Let's look at these examples. What is the procedure? Conducting an iron spot test on a sample of rice. Who does this procedure? The quality control technician. Why is this important? The company needs to ensure that the rice is fortified. How should this be done? Here is where you would include a list of directions for the iron spot test. How often? Once every 4 hours. How to fix an issue? Here is where you would include a list of actions to be taken if an unfortified sample is identified. This concludes the module about ensuring product quality and safety. Remember, it is necessary to integrate the quality assurance and quality control protocols of a rice fortification program into the mill's existing management system. The final module, next, will inform you about how to report and use the data that are collected during regulatory monitoring activities.